Hello, and I hope you're doing well. I am going to do a beer review for you, and I am in Brittany, France, yet in a small town, Dinan, D-I-N-A-N, medieval little town, and right across the street, well, from me, not far, is an old 13th century, it was an abbey. So, now let me get out of this. Thought I'd try to look like a monk. Heck with that. All right, so tonight I've got a beer. I've never had this beer. I do like the brewery. I'll talk about that in a minute, but this is a buckwheat beer. Buckwheat. I've never had a buckwheat beer. And it's made by Lancelot Brasserie, which is in Brittany, France. I think it looks like about 50 miles from where I'm sitting. Near what used to be, it's still called Brocelianda Forest, which has King Arthur lore, and so Lancelot breweries and a lot of their beers have to do with the King Arthur legend. This beer is Tellen. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. It's T-E-L-E-N-N, then D-U, Tellen. And it's a buckwheat beer made with buckwheat and barley malt. Didn't say, I couldn't find out about the hops. It's 4.5% alcohol, so it's not a really strong beer. It's an average kind of strength. Tellen is actually Breton. It's not French, it's Breton. And Tellen in Breton language, I'm to understand, means black harp. They have a very strong identity with Celtic. And there's a history behind that because the people, they have roots here in Brittany. Actually, a lot of them came from Wales, Scotland, parts of Ireland, northwestern England. The Celts came here and settled. So they have a Celtic identity here. I've seen a guy wearing a kilt the other day, a Scottish kilt, and they have bagpipes and stuff. Yeah. You think Celtic stuff, you think Ireland, Scotland, but Brittany, Celtic too, Brittany, France, that's where I'm at. So, I'll try this, and all right, I'll tell you what I think of it. Get it open. Yeah, I don't have my gear. I brought my beer mugs that I usually do I brought them here, 2 of them, my Simon Pierce mugs, and they were broken. So I had to look around for a beer glass locally, and this is what I came up with. It's got the Breton Celtic version of Shamrock. You see this all over in Brittany, this image. They're very proud of their Celtic heritage, Breton beer. And it's on here too. You see the same thing on here, a Breton beer. That said, a lot of the beers I've had here, they're breweries all over, like upstart, craft beer breweries all over the place. A lot of them, in my estimate, aren't that good. There are a few winners, and one of my favorite brewers is actually in the region, is Lancelot Brasserie. Lancelot Brasserie means brewery. You can hear the bells, maybe. They ring the church bells here all the time. All right, so let's see about this. It smells like stout. It smells like molasses and chocolate. It smells like Guinness, really, to smell it. Speaking of which, Tellen, meaning in Breton language, black harp. There used to be originally on this label a black harp, but I read that Guinness Brewery objected to that as their trademark. So they had to take it off and they replaced it. All right, the pour. Try it with this. brown. Not the darkest beer I've ever seen, but now one thing I like about this brewery is they leave the yeast in the bottom of the beer. So I want to get that. That's pure vitamin B12. Unfiltered beer has substantial nutritional value if they don't filter it. I've yet to see one in America that does not filter the beer. Well, this bottle holds precisely 12 ounces of beer, or whatever's in this mug. There it is. Let's get this back here. Can't really see through it. Yeah, you can. Lights up green, or not green, sorry. Well, you can see it. Orangish red, purple, purple red. Yeah, so it's a dark brown beer. That's a pretty, you can't see this, but that is a very, 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 very fine head on this beer. I can't pour it out, but take my word for it. I have to say, Buckwheat beer, that is the finest head on a beer. It's finer than a Guinness. And there's no nitrogen in this. I can't even make out the bubbles. It's that silky fine. The head on this, tan color, very, very fine. That's very good. That's very good. Oh, that is very good. That is nice. I wish I had more. I only have the one bottle. The Buckwheat, by the way, their website, Lancelot Brasserie, they say that the buckwheat is grown right around here in Brittany. And so is the barley. It's all Brittany stuff, Brittany, France, for whatever that's worth. Buckwheat and barley make for a pretty smooth beer. Buckwheat, you have the buckwheat crepes, Gallard, I think they're called. But they're made out of buckwheat, and they're healthier than they look like a pancake, but it's healthier, and it's made out of buckwheat, so that's a pretty healthy grain, I'm to understand. That's a very good beer, very good. It's got a sweet up front with it tastes like a stout. It really tastes very similar to Guinness, and very well, I'll just tell you, if you've ever had a Guinness, this is pretty close to it. Kind of a bittersweet taste to it. Not quite as much character as a Guinness. It tastes a lot like a Guinness draft rather than an extra stout. Medium mouthfeel. Got decent lacing to it, as you can see. A very good beer. I'm pleasantly surprised because I've had some beers here. You imagine that. I haven't had that many really, but the few I've tried, disappointed. Some of them weren't very good. I didn't think they were very refined. Like somebody would brew that hasn't been much experience. Other ones I think were very good beers, but I just didn't like them, if that makes any sense. I'm in this really old building. It's stone, of course, but the floors are wood, and there's a guy beneath me that you can hear a lot. So I'm trying to keep it kind of hush hush. Yeah, it's very old. I mean, literally a stone's throw from where I'm sitting. There's a was a 13th century, 14th century abbey with quite a history to it. And the place was rebuilt partially, and now it's a pizza joint. Makes good pizza, but it used to be an abbey, and the place is like 800 years old, and that's almost right next to where I'm sitting. So it's a pretty old place, definitely. I like stone buildings, and I like history. So here I am. Off the beaten path, really, in Brittany, Denon. This town gets a lot of tourists, but they're French tourists, not like foreigners, like Paris. It's loaded with a lot of Asians and Americans and Germans, Arabs. This town is kind of pretty well preserved. It takes a little bit of work to get here if you don't have a car and you don't speak French. But I made it. Carbonation on this is spot on. Not flat, but it's not overly carbonated either. I don't know, it tastes like a Guinness. So I don't know what part of the flavor the buckwheat contributed to. But I can tell you the head on this was uncharacteristically smooth. If buckwheat imparts a head like that, more beers should have buckwheat in them. We're not thinking about buckwheat on Little Rascals. No, buckwheat. You don't, in America, you don't even hear buckwheat, really. They don't really use it for much of anything that I know of. But in Brittany, France, they cook with it, and these people brew with it. It's starting to go a little flat. Played out. I have to say, this is a very good beer, and in fact, all the beers that Lancelot Brewery makes are good that I've had, and they're all named after historical figures in Brittany history. Each one, or King Arthur, Lancelot, Morgan Le Fay, and then a central figure in Breton history. Oh God, Anna. I might do something on her. Yeah, it's really like it. I really like it here, honestly. I mean, life being what it is, wherever you're at. But honestly, I can live here where I'm at a little bit cheaper than where I'm at in New York State. I would like to spend my winters here, right here in Denon, and my summers in Moravia, where I live, because the summers are beautiful there, beautiful. And so are the spring and fall. Spring, summer, fall. I'd like the winter over in France, Denon, which is not at all like Paris. Paris is a city in transition. There's a lot of Muslims. It's a big city. It's fast paced. I think it's 12 million people. It's an intriguing place. Paris is really got it. It's pretty nice in its way, but for me, it's not for me. I'm a small town guy, and this town here, Denon, for me is right on target. It's a very small city, but like a medieval city, and it's removed from the bigger city life and problems. And I could be at the ocean in a little over a half hour from here for very little. I could take a bus or a train, go there and back for under $10, spend a day, hit some restaurants or do whatever. I want to walk the beach. You're not going to swim there, that's for sure. The water's cold and the tides are some of the strongest on earth in northern Brittany. It's just more to do here. Very lonely for me in Moravia. And there's a lot of beers. I think I could do a beer review every night on a different beer. There's so many. There's so much variety here. Not just with beers, but cider's their thing. That's a Brittany thing, especially Normandy. It's cider, but where I'm at too. Cider, big time traditional drink. Chocolates and breads and cheeses. Oh man, everything. A lot of food. Cafes, espresso, sleepy little bars that time forgot, that you hole in the wall, hidden, not advertised. You walk right by it, not even know there's an old bar in there. It's been there forever. Pizza, and they make food in them, and usually they have an oven, a wood-fired oven, believe it or not. Quite a few of them do. Quite an intriguing place in a quiet, slow way. It's really delicious beer. It got a little flat towards the end, I will say. But that said, this is a very good beer. And the buckwheat beer. So, Tellen Black Harp. All right. Au revoir. Bonne journée.